Breaking news on the Israel-Hamas war. There you're seeing Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. That is tape playback because he just wrapped up those remarks for the first time since Hamas has agreed to release all hostages if the field conditions for the exchange are met. Let's bring back Peter Baker. So, Peter, first of all, what are the conditions for hostage release? What might that look like, and are you optimistic?
Well, look, what we think is going to happen here is the remaining hostages, both the living and the bodies of those who have passed away, would be released to Israel, and Israel would release a number of prisoners who've been held for years in their prisons, Palestinians on various charges, as well as people who were captured during the last 2 years in the Gaza war. That's the relatively simple part of this thing, if they can go ahead with that. The problem is, or the challenge is, that there's a whole lot of other issues that need to be resolved, and it's not entirely clear whether Hamas has agreed to some of the things that Trump has outlined in his peace plan. Among them, for instance, will they disarm, as the plan calls for? Would they accept this governing board that President Trump has talked about, that he himself would chair? What the Hamas statement talked about was turning over control of Gaza to an independent Palestinian, governance mechanism of some sort. So these are the kind of things that could still, bollocks this thing up. But there is a feeling of hope at the moment on both sides, a feeling that perhaps this is the beginning of the end, and we'll see what happens when these negotiations resume in the next hours and days in Egypt.
So Julie Zirkin reported Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff are going to Egypt for these negotiations. Are you surprised about Kushner's participation here? Do you know what his role is?
Well, you're right to say that's very interesting, because he has not played an overt role in the administrations in this second term. Remember, in the first term, of course, he was actually on the White House staff as a senior advisor to President Trump, and he was very active in the Middle East at that time, both dealing with the Saudis and dealing with the Israelis. He came up with his own Israeli-Palestinian peace plan that didn't go anywhere, but then managed to orchestrate the Abraham Accords that did extend diplomatic recognition for Israel among several Arab states. So this is the first time I think we've seen him quite so public, involved in this in the second term. But he's been on the periphery, as we know, even in the last few weeks and months, because he does have relationships in the region. He does have a certain degree of credibility among some of the actors in the region, among the Israelis and among the Arabs, partly because of his experience in the first term, and partly because he's been doing business with some of them in the last 4 years. He's in business with the Saudis as we speak. And so I don't know exactly what role he's going to play, but obviously he is an important, representative of the president in this situation.
So the Israeli government, Peter, it is preparing for the immediate implementation of the first steps of this proposal and plans to cooperate with President Trump, who is calling for a ceasefire. But just this morning, Israel launched another round of airstrikes on the Gaza Strip. So could the mixed messaging, the aggressive actions, keep the deal from being implemented?
That's possible. We've seen in the past, the two sides get closer to some sort of a deal, only to have it, blow up in the course of additional action there in Gaza. Israel says it is. It takes the message from the president to be that they should shift to defensive operations, not halt all operations. I don't know whether they're calling the latest actions defensive or not. It depends on how far they go. If they end up pulling back at this point and waiting to see, whether these hostages really are released, that will probably go a long way toward making it easier to negotiate on the next stages. But if they continue to pound away, that's obviously tricky for these negotiators who are trying to get to a more permanent and more sustained deal.
Okay. Peter Baker, wouldn't be a Saturday without you, my friend. Thank you so much.